Yeah, it's Bomb Peeps. Cephalosian77 here today, and I'm gonna be honest. I don't really care that much at all for the Gen 8 meta. Even in its current state, after the bans that have happened for Pokemon like Pheromosa, Naganadel, Genesect, Landorus, Incarnate, even after so many bans and possibly an Urshifu ban, it still doesn't really appeal to me. It In the current state, I don't like it because it feels really unbalanced. So, as a result, my main metagame that I have played is actually another well, it would be classified as an other metagame, which has been around for a few years, but I haven't really appreciated how unique the idea was for this metagame until now. And that metagame is Pokebilities. Now, in Pokebilities, the only thing that you need to know is every Pokemon has access to all their abilities at once. This causes a lot of unique strategies that people can use. Like Quagsire becomes pretty much a hard counter to Keldeo, at least if it has Secret Sword, because it completely just doesn't take any damage from Scald if it has Secret Sword instead of Focus Blast, because Secret Sword attacks the physical defense instead of the special defense. That makes it really useful to counter Keldeo. But some of the most interesting Pokemon, in my opinion, are the Guts users. Now, there are a lot of really good Guts users, and there are a few fairly bad Guts users. Now, when it comes to fairly bad Guts users, I'll get it over with quickly. First up, Flareon. Now, a base 65 speed under... sorry. You're not going to be doing much under a base 65 speed, even with pretty reliable Sticky Web support due to the fact that not much carries Defog or Rapid Spin, anything to get rid of hazards in this meta. So Flareon, as a result, even under Sticky Web, it just doesn't do good. I mean, I guess it can take a special hit, but even then, a lot of the powerful Pokemon in the meta are physical attackers. Like 70% of the Pokemon that are good offensively are physical attackers, and then the special attackers are mostly Pokemon that Flareon has a pretty bad weakness to, like the basic rain teams that are going around with Swift Swim, Kingdra, and Swift Swim Ludicolo. It's really just not a good look for Flareon. Now Luxray, it has pretty much the same issues. Pretty middling bulk, and the speed, while better than Flareon's, is still not that good. But the main reason why it's not nearly as good is because while it has two of the best abilities in Pokeabilities, being Intimidate and Guts, I'll get to Intimidate in a later ability, Rivalry is what makes it so bad. Because it already has really mediocre stats. But just adding Rivalry on that, doing 25% less to a Pokemon based on a random number, unless someone sets their gender of the Pokemon specifically, it's still going to be completely random, and that is the main thing that makes Luxray so bad, because you're already not going to be outspeeding much. You're pretty much going to be a nuke that blows up once, doesn't get a second chance, and that's not really good for a Guts Pokemon. Throw, don't get me wrong, it has great HP, some okay defenses under that HP, but its other abilities don't really give it much reason to use it over other Guts Pokemon. Like, Mold Breaker is fine, Inner Focus is fine, but they just don't work that well together. And while Throw does have a pretty good move pool, at the same time, a move pool can only go so far if you can't abuse it properly. Now, a lot of the Pokemon that have Guts are fighting types, and now we're starting to get into the good ones. Conkeldurr, I'd say probably in the top 5 for Guts Pokemon in the Pokebilities metagame. And if you're wondering why, I mean, it has, even without Guts, it has a 140 base attack stat, a 105 HP, 95 defense. It can take a few hits. But then you look at its other abilities. Iron Fist and Sheer Force, they just take its moves to the next level. If you have Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, Fire Punch, any of those moves, you get both the Sheer Force and the Iron Fist boost. Just imagine you are burned on top of that because Guts ignores Burn having the physical damage. That makes it absolutely insane. But at the end of the day, while it is a really good Pokemon in the metagame, it still has pretty bad speed, meager special defense, so it can be taken down fairly easily because it's really reliant on getting in on a physical attacker and taking a hit, or just outright having to face a team of walls, because it is specifically a wall breaker. Now, the next Pokemon, Heracross. Heracross, what makes it so good, other than Guts? One, Swarm. Now, if you're at low health with Heracross, like if you're under 1/3, then you do 150% of you do 150% times your damage instead of just 100% with bug type moves like Mega Horn. Now, coming off a base 125 attack stat, that is going to be hitting everything hard. And then you take into consideration that Flame Orb and Toxic Orb already whittle you down every single time you use a move. It just makes it really, well, good. There's no other way to put it. And after that, you take into consideration, hey, if I kill a Pokemon, Moxie. So Guts and Moxie plus the extra power from Swarm, if you're able to get there without getting killed, makes it absolutely ballistic. Now, Machamp and Hariyama, they're kind of in the middle when it comes to fighting types and Pokebilities. They're not bad like Throw, but they're far from the level of Conkeldurr. Now, Hariyama, it has Sheer Force and Thick Fat, both fairly good abilities, especially Thick Fat, with giving it a resistance to ice and fire. And Sheer Force, it has some useful things, but when you take a look at Hariyama's moveset, the only things that really can take advantage of it are Stone Edge, Rock Slide, the punches, and Poison Jab. And oftentimes you'll be running a moveset that's like Knockoff, Fake Out, or Bullet Punch, Close Combat, and then your last move, it's going to vary between your different options. Ice Punch is probably the most common, but then there's also things like Earthquake. You just need some better options to break walls a lot of times. And Hariyama, while it does have really good attack and phenomenal HP, those defenses should be at least slightly higher if you want to get much worth out of it. It's not bad by any means, but it's not the best. And Machamp, the main draw with this is the fact that it gets both Guts and No Guard. Now, for Hariyama, Machamp, and Heracross, Hariyama, Machamp, Heracross, and Conkeldurr, I would not suggest running Facade. I would just suggest running full-on coverage. And the reason why, it can be a bit confusing, but, like, sure, Facade is going to be 140 power. But at the same time, there's a lot of ghost types in the metagame. There's a lot of rock and steel types in the metagame. There's a lot of Pokemon that will resist it or just be completely immune. So you're not going to get much mileage out of it. And as a result, there are Pokemon who don't get... I don't think many of the Pokemon who get stabbed... I don't think a single one of the Pokemon that don't get stabbed on Facade should be running it in this metagame. Because they all have really good options that, when combined together, would make it much better than just running Facade. And with Hariyama, you don't even really need to run Protect because you can just run Fake Out if you're not facing up against a Ghost type as lead. Now, Swellow. The main draw to Swellow has to be the other ability it has in tandem with Guts, being Scrappy. Now, Scrappy makes Swellow one of the biggest threats in the metagame if you can properly send it out. Now, I personally like running Roost, U-Turn, Protect, and Facade. I know that Brave Bird would probably be better than Roost, but I like having slightly better longevity, especially because a lot of the Pokemon in the metagame are walls that kind of hinder some of the attacking prowess of a lot of Pokemon. And Swellow really takes advantage of having both Guts and Scrappy. Like, if you catch a Jellicent on the switch-in, I don't know, I believe it's going to be dead. But, if you catch a Jellicent on the switch-in, if it's not dead, it's doing a lot of damage. If you catch an Alolan Marowak on the switch-in, it's doing like 80%. It's just going to chunk everything that it doesn't kill. And you can just revenge kill it at that point. Now, Eradicate. Why is Eradicate this good? Why do you say it's better than Luxray, better than Throw, better than Flareon, even better than Machamp, Hariyama, Heracross? Okay, let me explain. Guts, absolutely amazing. Runaway, not the best. Hustle, really risky, really inconsistent. But that also makes Eradicate so much better because it may be inconsistent, but the inconsistency doesn't bother it as much as these other Pokemon, because Eradicate is oftentimes much easier to try to build support around. Or, well, I shouldn't say that, sorry. Okay, basically, Eradicate, it's better because, for one, it gets stabbed from Facade, unlike a lot of these other Pokemon. Like, the only Pokemon that I'd say are debatably better than Eradicate when it comes to Guts users and Pokebilities are Ursaring, and then I'd definitely say Swellow is probably the best. I'd probably put Eradicate at third place, but just stab on Facade, because Facade goes to 140 power after the Flame Orb boost, after the Guts boost, then you take into account Stab, making it a 210 base power move, coming off of a attack stat that is multiplied because of both Guts and Hustle. Let me just type this in a calculator real quick. Okay, so it's going to be 200... Wait. Okay, let's just say, what if it was adamant? Okay, that would make it even better. Let's see. But for now, I'm just gonna neutral nature. Let's do the calculations. 230 times 2 times 2. Oh, wait, no. Because right now, for some reason, it has the 0 attack IVs. Okay, so 261 times 2 times 2. I mean, times 1.5 times 1.5. Because both only give a 1.5 boost. What am I thinking? Okay, 261 times 1.5 times 1.5. That's 587 power. That's 587 attack. And while Eradicate may not be the fastest Pokemon, there are ways to complement it. Like, one of the pretty much the only viable sticky web setter is Galvantula, but keep in mind there are very few Pokemon that run Rapid Spin or Defog. Like, the only Pokemon I can think of that run that are Hitmontop and sometimes Pelipper. So if you can get a sticky web up, Eradicate has a potential to be one of the best Pokemon if you know how to run it properly. Now, yes, it's made pretty inconsistent with Hustle, but just having a stab, facade, and a 587 attack stat, I'd say really makes up for the weaknesses that having Hustle provides. Sure, along with that, if you get hit by anything, you're most likely dead. But even after that, even after having some of the worst defenses, a really poor effect from, well, a really bad downside to Hustle, Eradicate is still one of the top 3 Pokemon in the meta. One of the top 3 Guts Pokemon in Pokebilities. Now, Ursaring. I put Ursaring second only to Swellow, and that's mainly because Swellow just being able to hit ghost types more reliably is great. Also, Swellow, it gets healing, it gets momentum with U-turn, and like, it may be weak to rocks, but the few Pokemon that run rocks, like, there's a lot of counters to them in the current meta for Pokebilities, and Swellow, like, even if it is taking 25 damage on the switch-in, even if Fairthorn is pretty common, especially with Rocky Helmet, anything that's not named Fairthorn, you're going to be doing a lot of damage to, even full HP, full death with Powdon. It's absolutely insane how much Swallow can get from it. But Ursaring, like, just look at this. 359. Then you multiply by 1.5 thanks to Guts. Like, I'm not even going to do the calc this time. It's just absolutely insane. And the 55 base speed. Let's see. Let's make it jolly. Okay, 229 times 1.5. Yeah, that's 343 speed. Like, it's not multiplying the speed stat itself. Like, it's not multiplying the base speed, sorry. It's multiplying what you get from the IVs and the EVs after the base speed, the natures, things like that. So, Ursaring will be outspeeding a lot. Like, it even outspeeds Chinchino, which I believe is the fastest viable Pokemon in the current metagame other than Swellow. Swellow is probably the only Pokemon that outspeeds Ursaring, and even with really poor defenses, like, if you catch a Swellow on the switch-in with Ice Punch, which you may be running a lot because Hippowdon exists, Ursaring is absolutely insane. Now, if you want me to rank them, every single one of the Pokemon that has Guts for Pokebilities, let's see, that's 10 Pokemon. Okay, here would be my list. Starting off with bad. Luxray in last. Flareon in 9th. And Throw in 8th. Then for the good but could be better, Hariyama in 7th. And Machamp in 6th. Wait a minute. Okay, and here, the really good Heracross at 5th, Kelter at 4th. Then we have the top 3. The absolute best Guts Pokemon that I would always suggest you use if you want to run a Guts Pokemon. Ursaring at 3rd. Eradicate. Eradicate at 3rd. Ursaring at 2nd. Swellow at 1st. Now, Guts is overall kind of a niche ability in Pokebilities because you kind of have to sacrifice running a normal item in order to get yourself status. But at the end of the day, it's still worth it, definitely. And it's not that difficult to build a team around it. Like, you see, this team right here. I have hazard setters like Galvantula, Clefable, and even Cloyster I'm using as a hazard setter. Like, I have Hitmontop to get rid of hazards. I have Greninja for the for the Ghost, Rock, and Steel types. It's not too difficult to build a team around a Guts Pokemon. You just have to know how to do it. And if you know how to properly use a Pokemon like Eradicate, it can be really good even after the fact that you have to take RNG into account. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to do 2 more Pokebilities videos soon. One based around Intimidate, one based around Clefable. This has been Typhlosion787, and I'm out of the house. See you next time. Bye.